cheek, just under his eye. The purposeful look, devoid of any humor, gave Mark a very bad feeling. His pulse rate accelerated, and he wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead. The men moved past the guard station, and then turned left, heading up the driveway, past the window with a sign reading, "Guests check in here first," and proceeded to the outer door of the man-trap. Mark tapped a button on his control panel. "Duran, are you seeing our uninvited guests?" After a brief pause, Duran replied, "Got them. Is that guy wearing a top hat?" "Yeah, and his friend's got a cloak. They went straight to the door without stopping here first to check in." "I've got a bad feeling about these guys." "Yeah, same here." "I'll call our friends in the dome." "Thanks." That was their procedure for dealing with unapproved guests. Mark, at ground level, would attempt to speak with anyone seeking unauthorized entry. Duran, his partner on this shift, worked in the guard tower, and he'd notify the police stationed inside the massive dome covering the nearby corporate city of Pleasanton, Ohio, of the potential trespassers. Located on the opposite side of the driveway and concrete gate from the guard station, the tower enabled a guard, located 40 feet off the ground, to survey the surrounding territory and perform visual scans of the neighborhood. In the nearly impossible event that someone would breach the walls, the roles would be reversed. Duran would track the perpetrators, and Mark would notify the police. They'd never had to execute that procedure. No one had ever bothered to try scaling these walls. Each year, several people would try to break in by ramming the gate, which generally resulted in a totaled vehicle and, if the foolish driver was lucky, nothing more than whiplash for injuries. These men clearly desired entry, and his gut told him it wasn't a case of a resident forgetting to phone in the access authorization. The guidelines required him to proceed as if such a mistake had occurred until evidence proved otherwise. He left the speaker on, maintaining contact with Duran, and moved to the window the men had passed. Pressing a button, he activated a speaker on the exterior of the building. "Excuse me, gentlemen. Access to this community is available only to those authorized by current residents, and at present we have no standing authorizations for today. Please step away from the door and contact the resident you wish to visit to initiate your access request." The men ignored him. Not one of them even turned to acknowledge hearing his statement. Mark sighed. The arrogant guests of one of the wealthy residents of this fortress, no doubt too deluded with self-importance to worry about such trivial matters. He knew the type. These men would expect him to eventually give in and allow them entry. Mark recalled an approved dinner guest of Myra Vanderpool several years prior. The man, who was severely obese, had entered the first door of the man-trap and could not close the door behind him. That left the circuit open, and the system was, in such a circumstance, coded to assume a second person was attempting entry at the same time. The man had demanded that they open the doors, and threatened to sue if Mark did not come to manually open the inner door. Mark refused. Myra Vanderpool had come to the front gate herself, and they had agreed to open the concrete gate so that the man could walk in. The man had complained loudly about the horrific treatment he'd received at Mark's hands. Myra had apparently set her guest straight on that matter, for he'd apologized for his behavior with great fervor upon his exit from the community. Mark began to repeat his statement to the men, but paused. He'd heard something odd from the open communication link with Duran. It had sounded almost like a gasp, an inhalation of breath so sudden that it sounded like a noise of terror. He walked back to the control panel in order to listen more closely. "Duran? Everything all right up there?" There was no reply. Mark was suddenly overwhelmed by a powerful sensation of pure evil, an effect so strong that he nearly lost his footing.